The electric chair, also known as Old Sparky in some states, was the preferred method of execution for approximately 100 years. Sometimes those executions don't go as planned. Let's take a look at the 5 worst electric chair fails of all time. The electric chair was developed in the 1870s and 1880s, with the first execution taking place on August 6, 1880. William Kemmler was convicted of murdering his wife with a hatchet in New York. The first to try anything usually does not end well, and this execution was no different. Kemmler received 1,000 volts through his body, only to render him unconscious. The attending doctor reportedly called out, "Have the current turned on again, quick, no delay." During that time, they did not have the abundance of energy we have today, and the generator needed to recharge, leaving Kemmler in a state of limbo, barely hanging on to life. While waiting for it to recharge, blood vessels ruptured under his skin and areas of his body were singed. He was given another 2,000 volt shock to end his life and pay the price for his crime. The famed George Westinghouse said, "They would have done better using an axe." A reporter who witnessed the execution wrote that it was an awful spectacle, far worse than hanging. Many state governments and the United States federal government would adopt the electric chair as the primary method of execution. A book entitled Gruesome Spectacles would report that there have been 4,374 electric chair executions, with 84 of them being botched, a 1.92% rate. Frank Coppola was convicted of murdering a police officer in Virginia on September 26, 1978. Coppola waived all his appeals because he did not want to spend his life in prison and wished to spare his family any further agony. He would be the one put in agony. Death would call Coppola on August 10, 1982. The media was not allowed to attend the execution, but Coppola's attorney would describe the gruesome scene. The first 55-second jolt of electricity wasn't successful in killing Coppola. Virginia Department of Correction would give him another 55-second jolt to finish the job. The second jolt reportedly set his head and leg on fire, filling the chamber with smoke and producing a repulsive odor with the sizzling sound of burnt flesh. Coppola would be pronounced dead at 11:27 p.m. Alpha Otis Stephens was convicted of murder in Georgia. Sentenced to death for a burglary and murder, Stephens confessed to the crime and presented no defense at trial. Stephens would be walked to the death chamber on December 12, 1984, almost 10 years after his crime. The state would administer the first jolt of electricity, but it failed to kill him. Stephens would continue to breathe for an additional 8 minutes following the first jolt. Physicians needed his body to cool for 6 minutes before examining him. Another jolt was ordered and it would end his life. It was reported that he took 23 breaths in between jolts. A Georgia prison official said, "Stephens was just not a conductor." Jesse Tafero is our 4th electric chair fail. Tafero was convicted of killing 2 men. One was Florida Highway Patrol Officer Philip Black. The other was a police officer in Canada visiting Black. Tafero's wife and children were with him when this incident occurred. Tafero's wife was also sentenced to death but was later commuted to life in prison. Tafero met Old Sparky on May 4, 1990. The executions did not go as planned. 6-inch flames shot out of his head and 3 jolts were required to end his life. After an investigation by the state of Florida, it was found to be due to inadvertent human error. They had mistakenly switched the sea sponge with a synthetic sponge, which does not conduct electricity as well. The state of Florida tested this theory by sticking a synthetic sponge in a common household toaster, which quickly caught fire, proving their point. Many thought Tafero's death was on purpose due to his victim being a law enforcement officer. It is also thought that Tafero served as the inspiration for author Stephen King's book, The Green Mile. The character in the book, Edward Delacroix, suffers a botched execution after the sponge isn't wet properly. Delacroix suffers an agonizing death. Our last botched execution, and possibly the most brutal, is Alan Lee Davis. Davis, also from Florida, was convicted of murdering a 9-month pregnant woman and her 2 daughters. The electric chair had to be specially constructed for Davis, who weighed 350 pounds. He was walked to his death on July 8, 1999. Davis suffered massive bleeding during the execution, which pooled under him. Blood from his mouth poured all over his white t-shirt. He also had massive burns all over his body. A Florida state senator who witnessed the execution was first shocked, but when the blood formed a cross on the floor, she took it as a sign from God. Davis was the last execution by electrocution in the state of Florida. The state was sued over the legality of the electric chair, but the state Supreme Court upheld the electric chair as a proper means of execution. We have now profiled 5 electric chair fails. The electric chair is mostly out of use in the United States, with lethal injection being the current method used. Although these men were convicted by a jury of their peers of very heinous crimes, did they deserve their agonizing deaths? Let me know in the comments what you think. If you enjoy this content, like and subscribe. As always, see you next time.